Okay, so Mark, you represent these guys. What happened in the parole hearings?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say you never complimented me like that when you were still working as a prosecutor. So
So for the viewers, just so you know, Mark and I go back. I don't want to say decades because it's embarrassing, but
but
decades.
it's true. It's decades. Back when you
It's
were in
decades.
Orange
And
County, California, you were the tough guy, kind of superstar Orange County prosecutor. I used to love to take cases solely. I mean, I almost advertised, I'll take any case with Matt Murphy. I wanted to just go head to head with the best of the best. So
and the funny thing is, whenever Mark and I would finish a case, honestly, he'd walk out and go, and I would think to myself, if I'm ever in trouble, that's probably the guy that I would hire, especially if I did it. So just background wise, Mark and I go way, way back.
very, very
So
fun.
you got into this case, obviously a fascinating one. The whole world, I mean, this was the trial of the century before the actual trial of the century, right? This is a huge case in LA, and you represent them for their parole hearings. So walk us through that. And I should probably correct
Yeah,
that. You represented them. You got them. You got them parole hearings. First of all,
correct.
so
Correct. We did.
amazing legal work.
Yeah, you as a California practitioner will know that there has been kind of a sea change in California. Back when you and I were doing battle down in Orange County in the 90s, that was back at the kind of high water mark of law and order in California, and that was lock them all up, build the prisons, and you might remember, Matt, that the DA who was in the fight of his life for his electoral career was Gil Garcetti. And against that backdrop, the first Menendez case was tried. Leslie Abramson famously tried that and became kind of a pop culture phenomena and did a wonderful job, got two hung juries with two separate juries, one for Erik, one for Lyle, and they split evenly between murder and manslaughter. The second in between on the retrial was, as you remember, the OJ case. And that was what a lot of people call the trial of the century. I always consider the Menendez case trial one, the trial of the century, because it was televised, and that's what really kind of spawned the True Crime Network. But there was the not guilty in OJ. 8 days after the not guilty, the second trial started. And boy, was that a different trial. They were tried together. They were tried in front of the same judge, but a lot of different rulings. They were convicted life without. Back then, I don't know about you, Matt, but I remember going years without doing a trial that didn't have a life top. Back in the 90s, it seemed like every case we were trying was a life top in California. They were there. As you mentioned, we got them resentenced back in May. And now, fast forward, they converted this kind of safety hearing into a parole hearing. And one of the best parole lawyers around, Heidi Rummel from USC, did their hearings. They were denied, but a minimum denial of 3 years, which means they're eligible again in a year. And now you're supposed to ask me, as the host, pinch hitting, what's next for them. And I'll tell you, what's next is they've still have the clemency that's sitting on the governor's desk. And we have an OSC Ray, the habeas, which the judge issued, which we have briefed, and we're waiting on Judge Ryan to rule on that.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on Newsom? I don't see him doing it with presidential ambitions that everybody's talking about. I think that this is still so controversial among a lot of people. I can't see him granting clemency, but what do you think? You're obviously a lot closer to this case than I am.
I just think that he's gotten away. Mind you, in full disclosure, I've had my issues with Newsom, especially regarding parole blocks and with cases I've had, especially during COVID. Having said that, he certainly has changed as of late. And I'm hopeful, like I say, hope springs eternal. I'm hopeful that he takes a look at everything they've done and against the backdrop of these parole hearings. And when I say everything they've done, I've been down to that R.J. Donovan prison, which is closer to your old haunt than to mine, down in San Diego. I've seen that green space project. I've seen the hospice project. I've seen the guide dog service projects and all of that. I mean, it really is tremendous work. And I don't know about you, but when I talk to correctional officers, which I do more frequently than probably most, they say they want this incentive for people who are incarcerated, who maybe have a life without, to have an incentive to make the right decision, which these guys did before they had any hope whatsoever. And I just, with some exceptions, don't find everybody to be irredeemable. I mean, obviously there are some people, and we could probably segue into another case almost immediately, but I do not consider them to be irredeemable. I have kind of lived with the family members, and I don't know about you, but I've only had a handful of cases in over going in my 5th decade, where every single living family member wants them out, wants a defendant out.
Well, so I did work at Donovan. We used to do our BPT lifer hearings down there, and just to kind of add to it. And I got to be a little bit careful because I'd never want to ask you anything that could potentially violate attorney-client. But I'll tell you what my prediction is. Your problem in getting them out is I dealt with Dos Cincos in one of my cases, which of course is it's a prison gang down there that I was surprised. I didn't know that Erik had an affiliation with them. So whenever, I did about 100 BPT lifer hearings because as you know, Mark, that was a part of the job in Orange County. They would send us to prisons around the state to attend those BPT lifer hearings. So whenever a murderer was up for parole, we would go in there. And when you had, as a general rule, when a prisoner has recent 115s, so that's the code for major rule violations, as you know, that would almost universally keep them out. But when you had 115s plus gang involvement, the scary thing, I think, for a lot of those commissioners, to forget about all the fame and the high profile nature of the case. Whenever you've got cell phones, the specter of gang involvement, the problem in the modern era is cell phones are very dangerous in prison. And I think Lyle and Erik both got caught multiple times with cell phones. So they can petition in 1 year. I think it takes 18 months before they get another hearing. I could be wrong about that, but you're absolutely right. That 3-year denial is not actually 3 years in the current state of the California penal system, because they really do seem to have a new emphasis on getting people out on parole. So just a prediction for me, I think they're really going to have to keep their noses clean, because if they pick up a 115 between now and then, they're screwed, or at least one of them would be, I think. But I have to say this, Mark, you getting them a parole hearing was remarkable legal work, regardless of where anybody falls on the Menendez brothers, whether they deserve it, whether they're innocent. A lot of high emotions out there from a purely mercenary legal perspective. Removing the right or wrong of the case, you did amazing legal work, in my opinion. Just getting that, I didn't think you had a chance in hell. I'm no fan of George Gascon, but I think that, I think you would have been successful regardless of who the DA was, given the advocacy that I witnessed. So major kudos to you, my friend, for getting that. Now, do I think they should be released? Not to surprise you, Mark. Hell friggin' no, do I think they should be released. But that's a debate. That's a debate between old friends another time, I think.
I think so, too.